Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Glad to be with you, as is always the case. The show today and every day is brought to you by our good friends at Big Willie's. It is Utah's sports bar, 1717 South Main. The Week 0 games that you're not getting tickets to, go to Big Willie's to watch them. You're looking for a delicious, fulfilling meal in the middle of your week? Big Willie's, 1717 South Main. The craft food menu, the craft cocktails menu, the beers on draft, the pool hall. They keep it all pristine for our listeners. Tell them OC sent you and stop by Big Willie's at 1717 South Main Street in the heart of Salt Lake City.
Definitely stream the radio broadcast of one of those Week 0 games, too, while you're at Big Willie's. You know,
yes.
The big one, Fresno State, Kansas.
The one that we're all waiting
the big headliner from Week 0.
Historic rivalry.
Oh, wait, is there a bigger game on Week 0?
Versus Fresno State Bulldogs. One of the rivalries.
You know what they say about dogs and Jayhawks.
Natural enemies, even in the wild. The wild bulldog population has actually decimated the wild Jayhawk population.
I bet you didn't know that.
How wild it would be actually to see like a bulldog in the wild. You're out there hiking, and you're like, "Oh, is that a coyote over there?" And it's just a bulldog snuffling around, barely able to breathe. There's a reason why those aren't wild animals.
Yeah.
They're not built to survive anymore.
No, we're happy to. I mean, it's part of our Westwood One package. We are, as our listeners know by now, we are the Westwood One football affiliate. It means the main thing is we get the 3 standalone games every week, NFL. But part of that football package is we get to carry a handful of college football games too, and one Week 0 game is what it is. And we're happy to carry whatever they offer us, but it's strange to me that it's never the big Dublin, which is usually the headliner game these last few years. Westwood One never has the big Dublin, Notre Dame, Northwestern, Nebraska, whatever, and Farmageddon. But hey, Week 0, people aren't really that juiced for Week 0 anyway.
Well, we're going to be thirsty for football is the thing, and it's coming. We're getting closer and closer, 18 days away. We're Britton Covey. Hey, look at that. The Britton Covey jersey behind me here in our studios. If you're watching on the YouTube channel,
we planned it
at
that
ESPN
way.
700 Sports Utah, you can also see the Big Willie's neon sign. You can see my very beautiful face. Over-unders, we're going to do some more of those today. We're going to talk red and blue. I want to get into scheduling a little bit. As you know, you look at Utah's schedule, and some metrics have it as one of the top 3 toughest Big 12 schedules on the slate. BYU's got an easy schedule. Other schedules, other metrics say that, hey, look, Utah doesn't have that hard of a schedule this year. And I probably fall right in the middle of those two ratings. It's wonderful to have your toughest games, the bulk of your toughest games, at home at Rice-Eccles Stadium. That is massively important for this Utah football team, this Utah football season. And I think that the metrics that are ignoring that fact are overly influenced by the last couple of seasons where Utah's home record has not been what it historically has been. And unfortunately, that is how many standard deviations are you away from the typical performance of Utah football in 2023 and 2024? Well, depending on which number we're looking at, depending on which performance we're looking at. It didn't even seem like the same product at some points. But the optimism, the hope coming out of football camp, and we've got sound to play for you, gathered by Porter, and media availability today, if I'm not mistaken, James, is also during our show.
Yep, so Porter will be up there grabbing that. We've got sound from yesterday that we can play. I think they played some of it on the drive as well. Kyle Whittingham spoke yesterday, so we can pick a time and we can play it.
So we'll give you some of that sound. In fact, one little soundbite from Kyle Whittingham sparked one of the questions I put on Twitter at RealOCSports. You can always interact with us at 877-353-0700. And people might be getting sick of my over-unders, but we're sticking with this until football season kicks off because the numbers matter in putting together the entire performance for this team. I've constructed these as poll questions and over-unders. So yesterday we talked about points per game for the Utah football defense. And a surprising number of folks think that Utah will give up the over. The under still won, under 22.5 points per allowed, which, look, I know that I'm not speaking to an unbiased audience for the most part, but the overwhelming percentage of Utah football fans this year are back on board. They're drinking the Kool-Aid again, which is, by the way, a magical performance of just PR by Utah football, by the sports information staff, by the coaching staff, because how many teams in the country, even after a high-quality transfer class comes in, can put together a 5-7 season, miss a bowl game, have the worst season really on memory? I mean, there are teenage fans of Utah football that have never seen it that bad as it was last year, and immediately the bounce back is not only believed in but expected. Like that tells you a lot about this football team, about the cachet that Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley and everyone has built up in the community, and not just our local community, not just the Utah fan community, but Vegas is as unemotional, as cold-hearted, and as callous as anyone. And even Vegas is just like, yeah, we think Utah is due for a bounce back. So that's a win in of itself. But if you're going to pull off that bounce back, these numbers have to add up. They have to equate. People thinking that this offense gives you an extra touchdown per year and that the defense is giving up less than 22.5 points means that on average, your average performance is going to be a winning performance, is going to be a victory, which means it's only going to be outliers that present losses for you this year. And that, how many outliers are we thinking? 9-3, 10-2. We'll get to that most important over-under number as our final question before the season kicks off. I wanted to focus on the defense this week. We focused on offense last week. Sacks. Is this Sack Lake City or not? Is the Utah football defense going to present a formidable pass rush and be a team that is obviously hard to run against, but even when you drop back to pass, you're under duress as a quarterback? And I'll say this, whatever win total you think Utah's capable of this year, whatever defensive number you think and you settled on, over points, under points, whatever, in a conference that has, what did we decide, 5 or 6 really high caliber quarterbacks, at least, several of whom you're going to face. Avery Johnson, a little bit different style. Pass rush against him is probably less important, more containment with a guy like that. But Baron Morton from Texas Tech, Sam Levitt from Arizona State, like you're going to be Rocco Becht from Iowa State, you're going to be facing experienced, talented, dangerous quarterbacks. And the best way to affect their performance, to get them out of rhythm, to reduce their completion percentage, to reduce their ability to march down the field and hurt you on third down, is to create unmanageable situations for them when they drop back. The pass rush in football, I know I'm preaching to a choir here. I know that every single one of you educated fans knows this. The pass rush is as important of an aspect to your football team as your own offensive run game or pass game is. You can no longer win in college football without an at least serviceable pass rush. Now, it doesn't win you football games by itself, and you can compensate for at least an average one with excellence in other areas defensively and certainly offensively. But if you don't have at least a serviceable pass rush, if you underperform in that regard, at some point it's going to kill you, because at some point you're going to be going up against a team with a quarterback who, given 4 or 5 seconds, is going to dice you and slice you and score. So will Utah football's defense return to greatness in the pass rushing category? I set the over-under number today for the team number, the defensive production overall as a unit. How many sacks will the Utah football defense have in 2025? 34.5 is the over or under. Are you saying over 34.5 sacks, under 34.5 sacks? Last year, the team generated 24 sacks exactly. The average for the last decade, minus 2020, because Kyle Whittingham tells us to throw those numbers out, so I have thrown those numbers out. Well, so it's really a 9-year average, but it's the last decade.
With it only being a 5-game season, even if Witt didn't have that stance, it really should be thrown out.
When you're talking about
that's
averages,
one of the reasons why he says throw that season out. Yeah.
When you're talking about statistical averages, you should throw out the outlier year where it doesn't represent a proper sample size.
The SEC teams, I think Big 12 that year had a full slate of conference games, or maybe they had 10 conference games, whatever it was. BYU, like those in those teams that they played full seasons in 2020. You don't throw those out if you're talking about Alabama in 2020, for example. But Utah, the other Pac-12 teams in 2020, yeah, throw that out.
So 34.5 is a massive jump from last year, but the decade average is right at that over. It's at 35.2. Now, plenty of those years, you've hit the under. You've been 25, 26 sacks. We've also had years for Utah football, the better years of Utah football, and some that you were just like a quality team but not a conference champion, where you had 40-plus sacks in a year.
What was the number in 2014 for the team that sacked Nate Orchard's record-breaking year? Didn't we say that was that 55 that we found? Something.
I'm pulling
insane.
It up right now. James has a remarkable memory when it comes to these numbers, by the way.
Yeah.
For whatever
reason.
Sorry, James. 59.
59, okay. Way off.
How dare you?
But, yeah, so that's got to be if that's not the record, it's near the record for team sacks in a single season. Obviously, Nate has set the single season individual record that year, but that I can't imagine there being a season where they had 60 plus.
So when you look at the way that sacks translate to wins, it's a very, very indirect relationship. But what it does is it balances out everything on your team from a defensive perspective, certainly, but then it allows your offense to be performing in an environment where they don't have to play catch-up all the time. If you have a good pass rush and you can limit other teams' proficiency in throwing the ball downfield. Because let's be honest, dink and dunk passes, you're not getting sacks. All right? The ball is out of a person's hands in less than 2 seconds. You basically have to be an unfettered rusher in order to get to a quarterback in less than 2 seconds. It has to be a miscue. It has to be an unblocked type situation. It's incredibly rare that there's no resistance and that the spin move or the chop or the rip doesn't meet some level of resistance. Like a corner blitz coming free, the free rusher is the only one that could get to a quarterback on the short passing game and the sort of dink and dunk, like I said, and get there in time. So what we're talking about is a downfield passing game. And a lot of these teams, by the way, are now in the shotgun, so you're not looking at a drop back. The time you have to generate a sack now went from like 4.5 seconds to you got like 3.3 seconds to get there now if you want to sack a quarterback, even in a normal like mid-range passing situation. You're talking third and manageable. You're talking 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. That quarterback's going to get the ball out in 3.5 seconds. Do you think that the University of Utah has the ability to turn in their decade average of sacks this year? Over if the answer is yes, under if the answer is no. I'm looking at the personnel, and I'm asking myself, is Logan Fano going to give you, and that's why I put another question on there, is he going to be the top pass rusher, I guess is a valuable question. The assumption is yes, he's the team captain. He's the guy when healthy who's been the most productive of the current group. He's been the only super productive pass rusher of the group, and it's not super productive because he's been hampered by injuries. But the Cash Dillons and John Henry Dailies and in a Utah uniform, the Paul Fitzgeralds, we just don't know. We don't know what they're ready to give this team in Big 12 competition yet. I talked to Lewis Powell. I talked to Morgan Scalley. I talked to Kyle Whittingham, and the answer is the same every year. We got some guys. We got a bunch of guys that we like that we're going to rotate through, that we're going to play. All right. I love that. It's good that there's depth in the room. We thought that last year.
Yeah, didn't they? They
told us last year there were 6 or 7 guys.
Yeah, they said it was one of the deepest rooms they've ever seen up to that point.
And look at it on paper last year. Van Fillinger, Logan Fano, Connor O'Toole, Paul Fitzgerald was on the roster, right? Like, just those 4 should have been able to give you 24 sacks. Instead, the whole team gave you those 24 sacks.
And the thing, like, we talk about Connor O'Toole being one of those guys. He just his career just unfortunately never got started because he couldn't stay healthy for more than a couple of games at a time. It was so unfortunate with Connor O'Toole.
When we're talking about Utah football, the best ability now is availability.
Yeah.
Is durability. The same question, I knock on wood, I do not want to be having the same conversation about Logan Fano that we had about Connor O'Toole, and to a lesser extent about Van Fillinger.
Because Van still played. He was just limited.
He just wasn't himself.
Yeah, he was limited because he was playing hurt.
100% healthy Van Fillinger is a different player. I was going back through the top sack man totals because I have another question, right? Like, okay, what about this year? What about that year? Like, Bradley Anae was a healthy player. Part of the reason that Bradley Anae and Hunter Dimmick are at the top of the record books for Utah football's all-time pass rushers, and why John Frank from the old days, old school player, is in that world, because they had multiple years of elite production or quality production, not always elite production, but like you look at Bradley Anae's worst year, he had like 7 sacks for this team. His worst year.
Yeah.
You know what the number was for the leading sack man for Utah football last year?
It was Van, right? 6.
It was Van, 6.
Yeah, and he got them all in the first 4 weeks, right?
Like,
he was leading. I remember the story that the folks up on the Hill were circulating, and people nationally around the Big 12 were circulating after the Oklahoma State win in Week 4 was Van Fillinger is leading the nation in sacks.
Yeah.
And then he never got another one.
And that's, wild. Again, not an indictment of his talent.
No.
Not an indictment of his ability. Certainly, as we have learned, not an indictment of his toughness and willingness to go out there and compete for his team. It's just some bodies don't hold up as well. So will Logan Fano or John Henry Daly or Cash Dillon or Paul Fitzgerald or anybody else be a double-digit
surprise player we're not talking about?
Be a double-digit sack man for the University of Utah this year? That's the other over-under question. For the leading pass rusher on this team, the over-under I said is at 9.5. Can you get double digits? I also went back and I said, is that an unreasonable ask? Am I asking too much? Because Utah's always had like not just one-star pass rusher, but they've had a good pass rush. The reason why the average over the last decade is 35.2 sacks per year is because they have multiple contributors to that pass rush. In the best years, you've had a nightmare on one side and a bigger nightmare on the other side, right? We love that. We want to see that. Like, when Bradley Anae overlaps with Hunter Dimmick, overlaps with Nate Orchard, overlaps with Jonah Ellis, and there's just like this, then it's like those guys are on the field at the same time, even if one's still young and developing and the other one's more established.
And hey, don't sleep on Mika Tafua's
exactly
production. He was not any of those other guys we talked about individually, but he got to the quarterback.
And go back keep going all the way back to what you want. I mean, when you have Paul Kruger on one side and Koa Misi on the other side, and Derek Shelby, by the way, with both hands in the dirt, being an interior D tackle, and then he goes on to an 8-year career as an end in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
And
it's
been an embarrassment of riches.
We talked about Devin Lloyd's versatility. He got to the quarterback for a guy who wasn't really a primary pass rusher. He was a guy that got to the quarterback.
I look at the top projected sack man on the team this year, and it's Logan Fano. And Logan Fano, when he's been healthy, has been on pace to be a double-digit sack person while healthy. If you could get 10 games out of Logan Fano, you should get 10 sacks out of Logan Fano.
Yeah.
That's the question for me. And whatever you get from John Henry Daly, great. That gravy. Okay? So the sack numbers. Will Utah return to greatness in the pass rush? A lot of what we have talked about in Utah's ability to get back to conference championship contention has been focused on the offense. And there's this assumption they're going to be great on defense. Last year, you were the number 2 scoring defense in the conference without much of a pass rush.
Which is probably I in particular have been harping on how they need to get back to forcing a lot more turnovers. That's probably a big reason why the turnovers forced last season were lower than you'd expect for a team that was that good at scoring defense. The most important part is that they weren't really pressuring the quarterback all that much.
If Utah can generate 35 sacks this year, again, to meet their decade average, that would have been good enough tied for second in the conference last year.
Wow.
This is not a conference that it's easy to get a bunch of sacks in. Last year, it was especially hard because half the offenses were geared toward the run game. Obviously, that creates fewer opportunities for sacks. And the quarterbacks were all coming into their own as efficient passers, getting the ball out of their hand relatively quickly.
Some good dual threat guys, too, in the conference. There's a good amount of those guys that can just evade the rush.
We talked about Pac-12 Colorado as being an embarrassment defensively. Big 12 Colorado last year led the conference in sacks. 39 sacks for Colorado, 35 for Kansas State, 28 for Kansas, 26 for TCU, 25 for Oklahoma State, 24 for both Utah and for the eventual conference champion, Arizona State. And BYU, the number 1 scoring defense in the conference, the number 1 overall defense in the conference, was 12th in sacks. 12th. In a 4-way tie with West Virginia, Arizona, and Houston. None of those were great teams.
No.
So BYU's pass rush wasn't great last year. Utah's pass rush was below their own standard last year. Do you get back to it in 2025? It's a simple enough question with a much more complicated answer, and the implications of that answer become even more complicated because, again, it's not necessarily a requirement, but it is something that is sort of a cornerstone of the Utah defense, and it's a cornerstone of the Utah football identity. You can't run against us, and when you pass, we're going to send some demons after you. You're
going to feel us. Yeah.
There's going to be a dude with a lot of vowels in his last name for the most part, breathing down your neck.
I don't even know how to say this guy's a nightmare because I can't even name him. I can't even say who my villain is, and they're killing me. Yeah.
National broadcasters just can't stand when there's a Pizza Talboy Penu, and they're just like, crap. How do I pronounce
and he's
that?
just destroying their quarterback. Great.
Tim Brando's arch nemesis was Star Lotulele's name.
It really was.
Couldn't handle it.
Shout out to Tim Brando, by the way.
Couldn't get it right no matter what he did. Right?
Speaking of Tim Brando, he's with Fox now, right? Do we have an announcement on who the broadcast team is for Utah's game? I was trying to look for it. I did not see it. Anyway, I'm hoping it's Brock Heward, Jason Benetti.
It probably is West Coast.
It won't be. It won't be
the Klatt and
no.
Gus.
It's not gonna be Gus and Klatt. That's probably Ohio State, Texas to start the day. But I don't know I don't know what Fox's other games are earlier in the day. I would think that Utah UCLA is the other marquee game for Fox.
As I asked the question, hey, who's going to be the top pass rusher, and will that person be a double-digit sack leader on this defense? I mean, whoever it is, it would have to be an outperformance of expectations for your leading sack man to get to double digits. And if your leading sack man is not in double digits, can you hope to hit the decade average for Utah's defense?
I'm not sure you can, OC. I think there has to be at least one double-digit guy and maybe one or two other guys that are 7-8 sacks to get there. I don't know that you can count on six guys to get at least 6 sacks. I don't know if you can do that.
The cast of characters, the suspects for you to decide on as you're going to @RealOC Sports on Twitter or texting me at 877-353-0700 as you're trying to figure out, okay, over or under 34.5 sacks, can we hit the decade average? And then over under 9.5, can you get the leading sack man to double digits for the University of Utah? You're asking the question, can I see Logan Fano get there? Can I see Lance Holtzclaw get there? Can I see Paul Fitzgerald get there? Can I see Riker Kemp, Alex Cloward, John Henry Daly, John Frank Jr., Cash Dillon, or Jackson Jones? Are these individuals that I can see getting 10 sacks?
You know what's really hard to say that? You have a few guys who this is not their first year in the program, but in the case of like Paul Fitzgerald and John Henry Daly, not much production in that regard, if any, yet as a Utah player. Logan Fano, because of injuries, not that kind of production yet as a Utah football player. So it feels like it's just a big unknown, and I wonder if we might have under win out because people are like, I don't know anybody on this pass rush.
That's why I went through the names, because if you inject the truth serum into everybody and you say, all right, which of these guys could you understand right now before they've taken a public snap? Could you say, yeah, that guy's going to have double-digit sacks? Logan is the only one you'd feel confident saying that. And that is as much of a propaganda thing as it is anything else, because you've seen what he's capable of, but you've never seen the sustainability of it.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that'll say Paul Fitzgerald because he had a really great year at Utah State. He showed in his time at Utah State that he can get to double digits. But that's probably it. Logan and Paul. And really more Logan Fano is probably going to come in. If you ask people who can you see doing that, it's probably going to be him, and then maybe the next one be Paul Fitzgerald.
Now, John Henry Daly, I think, is a guy that if you pay attention, if you pay close attention to, like when Caleb Lomu did his media availability, he
did shout him out.
He kept saying John Henry, they work against each other all the time. So the ones versus ones matchup, we can infer from what Caleb Lomu says that when I'm asking him, hey, who's the hardest guy to block, he says John Henry Daly I'm going against him all the time. So I think first snap against UCLA is Logan Fano on one side and John Henry Daly on the other, barring any changes. So, again, not someone you're uber familiar with. BYU transfer, elite high school recruit from Alpine, Utah, Lone Peak kid, right? Doesn't mean you know a ton about him. You're just not going to be comfortable saying, yeah, that guy can have 10 sacks. I've spoken with people who coach John Henry Daly who think his ability is through the roof. We haven't seen it, though. And the reality of this entire defensive front for Utah, which is the backbone of the entire Utah football program year in, year out for the last 40 years, is an unknown for the most part.
It's crazy to think that. By the way, our condolences to the people of Alpine. They did not make the Little League World Series.
Oh, too bad.
The Utah team from Alpine. The little engine that could from Alpine.
Condolences to our neighbors over here on Main Street. I don't know if you saw a big fire.
Oh,
devastated some of the little eateries, restaurants, bars.
Oh, dang!
Right around the corner on Main Street.
I missed that.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that. That's awful.
Sorry to hear that. The bounce back will be glorious, just like it will be for Utah football.
Wow, look at that full circle.
All right. Got to take a break here. 877-353-0700. Love to hear from you. Text in, call in, do what you want. At Real OC Sports on Twitter as well. And another question about Utah football based on something that Kyle Whittingham said, to the surprise of most of us. I love when Coach Witt surprises us. I'll tell you what he said next on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. I really wanted to stay focused on the Utah defensive numbers this week and a defensive conversation because we spent so much time on offense last week. But then Kyle Whittingham goes out yesterday, and at the media availability, he drops a little bit of a bomb on us and lets us know that it's not a foregone conclusion that Wayshawn Parker gets to be the starting running back for the University of Utah. He said that Dakari Rogers and Wayshawn Parker right now are interchangeable as running back 1A.
Is this a ploy to keep Wayshawn humble after he guaranteed 1,000 yards to the media?
You know what's interesting is I actually don't think that Kyle Whittingham wants his running backs humble anymore. I really don't. You go back far enough, like Devontae Booker, for example. People forget this, but when Devontae Booker had proven himself as the dude, that next season, there was, like, Utah spent, 10 days or a week or 2 weeks trying to maybe see if they could drum up a little Heisman conversation around Devontae Booker. Do people remember this? Like, nobody in the world had any intention of saying, hey, could this guy win a Heisman? Until coaches on the Hill, including Kyle Whittingham, mentioned that word, that loaded name, Heisman, and Devontae Booker in the same sentence. I don't think Kyle Whittingham wants humble running backs. I think your corners, your running backs, and your wide receivers have to be arrogant. And quarterbacks have to be arrogant with a sort of feigned humility.
Yeah, not in the same way. Not in the same way, but you want your quarterbacks overconfident too.
What we like is a quarterback who plays arrogant, who carries himself with this, like, I am the alpha of all alphas, and I don't speak that way necessarily because I know that this is a political position in a fan base.
It's going to come off. It's not going to be received well.
Which, by the way, is why people have a problem with Shedeur Sanders, because Shedeur Sanders is a guy who plays arrogant, has the ability to play arrogant. His abilities, if that's what you can do on a football field, like if God had blessed me with that talent, James, I would be equally or more insufferable than Shedeur Sanders.
It's a good point, though, because obviously his dad, he was raised by a incredible DB and for a long time wide receiver as well, in Deion Sanders. And, of course, that's the mindset that, as you mentioned, good wide receivers, good DBs have that, hey, I'm better than everyone else, and I'm going to tell you about it.
And you know what's crazy
and
is
Shedeur is that way as a quarterback.
Nobody even wants him to stop.
Yeah.
Like at the NFL level, at the high school level, for hell's sake, certainly in college football, I don't know if there's a coach out there at practice even who's just like, hey, number one corner, stop talking trash.
Maybe chill a little bit. I remember David Shaw back when he was Stanford's head coach. When Richard Sherman had that famous outburst after they won the NFC Championship game over, I'm sorry, your Niners, and freaked Aaron Andrews out.
Grievance
and really
triggered.
Freaked Aaron Andrews out on live television. Bunch of people thought, including myself, like, dude, way over the line, right? I remember David Shaw going on ESPN radio, making the rounds and ESPN television and saying, you want your corner to have that dog in him. You want we wanted Richard Sherman to be that way in his time at Stanford. The Seahawks wanted him to be that way at that time. So yeah, coaches, like a coach like David Shaw basically said, yeah, maybe it was over the line, but like that's what you want from Richard Sherman.
Here's the thing. I don't want to be on a football team where the corners and the wide receivers want to hang out with me, with like a guy like me, with a kind of a lame white dude. if that's who your receivers and your corners are, you're probably not in good shape.
Yeah,
You're and running backs should not be far behind. So, do I think Kyle Whittingham gave us the soundbite he gave us yesterday when he said, "Hey, Wayshawn Parker and Nakari Rogers are interchangeable as running back 1A for this team"? I don't think it's gamesmanship at all. I think it's a testament to what Nakari Rogers and every other player on this team have a chance to do in fall camp and have an even greater chance to do in spring football, where it's like, hey, man, I'm a good player. You give me a few reps, you give me a few opportunities, I'm going to show you I'm a good player. And the running back position is one that at the University of Utah and everywhere else, your bell cow, even if you're like, okay, this is our dude, at practice, certainly in fall camp, you're not going to let that guy take every rep. Quarterback, yes. Offensive linemen, the starters, yes. Your running backs, you have to interchange them. You have to. Unless you're trying to grind that guy down to a stump by week 6, you've got to, at practice, give other people reps. And if you're giving live reps to other guys, well, why not give live reps to a guy in the scrimmage this past Saturday especially who has the same numbers as Wayshawn Parker? Wayshawn Parker hasn't done anything special for you yet. I love the kid. I think he's going to be awesome. I enjoy the confidence. I love that he's not literally pounding his chest, but he's out there, he's saying, I'm trying to be better than Devontae Booker because we're from the same town. We went to the same high school, basically. I'm trying to beat his record at the University of Utah. That would make me a legend if I'm better than a legend, right? I guarantee 1,000 yards, and I want to get 1,500. I love that.
And the best part about it, you talk about before about guys that have that confidence, but the way they talk isn't like crazy, doesn't sound like crazy arrogant. That's how he sounded as he was saying those words. That media scrub. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna get 1,000 yards this year, and I'm going for 1,500. Want to beat Devontae Booker, and it was like nonchalant. I'm just telling you, this is what I'm gonna do.
And look, he, like every other football player in the country right now, has put in work, and he knows what his 40 time was in spring and when he tested it at the end of summer. He knows what all of his lifts are. There's been improvement in those things. He's a young man who knows he's hard to tackle, even for really good players on that defense. So he's like, well, yeah, if I can make Lander Barton miss every once in a while, or if I can run through some contact from Levani Damuni, then I'm better than I was last year. Last year I was pretty good. So, and by the way, I'm running behind a way better offensive line this year. So, yeah, 1,000 yards. I mean, if you're Wayshawn Parker and you're like, well, I'm no longer a freshman.
You had over 700 yards, right?
735
right.
yards. And the most important stat here is the yards per carry. He had 5.4 yards per carry. He finished the season with 4 touchdowns on the ground, 1 receiving touchdown. He was actually relatively active because in Washington State, running backs always are in the passing game. He had 11 catches for 108 yards as well. So he was 9.8 yards per reception and a touchdown there. That's a quality season, especially if you're a young cat, especially if you're a freshman.
And the other thing you bring up when you say running backs are always active, pretty active in the passing game in Washington State, you forget that's Wazoo. They're still doing air raid principles there. Mike Leach is no longer there. God rest his soul, but they're still operating with some air raid principles, and he was able to get that kind of production in that offensive system. Utah is not that. He's going to get why wouldn't he think he'll get in over 1,000 yards?
He is, by the way, he was part of the offense that is now going to be Oklahoma. I'm not expecting you to watch Washington State, but you probably will catch an Oklahoma game.
Yeah.
That's the quarterback he played with. That's the offensive coordinator he played with. They were the package deal that we talked about in the offseason. Hey, can Utah get this package deal?
They tried.
Instead, they get Beck, and they got
the New Mexico package.
Dampier.
Yeah.
And
Dampier.
If that's the consolation prize, sign me up. That's wonderful. Especially We'll talk about it in 5 minutes with what's going on with John Mateer right now. Yikes. I don't know if you've seen this, James, but he's not on the right side of the PR machine at this exact moment. But
and by
Kyle
the way,
Whittingham,
New Mexico in this offense beat that offense in Wazoo last year. So
Kyle Whittingham said, just casually, because he drops it nonchalant sometimes, nobody's established themselves as the obvious starter at running back. And I just gave you the numbers for Wayshawn Parker, and most people, honestly, already knew those numbers. Most people got excited about Wayshawn and already looked up his numbers and have started to extrapolate their expectations for the Utah offense based on him being the bell cow back. Now, Nakari Rogers enters the chat. A little more experienced of a player, which could be a positive, could be a negative, depending on how you look at it, because Wayshawn as a freshman, there's always supposed to be a big leap between freshman and sophomore year. So this should be the best upward mobility that we're going to see from him. For someone who's already a junior, okay, not as big of a leap expected, but do you know what his yards per attempt were? Rogers, his yards per attempt were at New Mexico.
Was it over 6?
It was 5.2. So
5.2, so right
just
around
underneath,
the same.
Like a negligible difference between what he and Wayshawn did in that measurement. He had 5 rushing touchdowns and 1 receiving touchdown. So his production,
similar numbers.
And he played 10 games as opposed to 12. He had half the attempts and about half the production. But this is a guy that when you use him on the average, on balance, is able to give you 5 yards a carry. If Utah can get 5 yards a carry out of Wayshawn Parker, Devin Dampier, Nakari Rogers, Smith Snowden, line up Spencer Fano in the backfield, I don't care. If this offense can give you 5 yards a carry on average, we're in a good spot, ladies and gentlemen.
We gonna see refrigerator Fano in the goal line sometimes?
I promise you this. I'm smash the over on big man touchdowns for the University of Utah this year. I'm setting the over at 1.5. Smash it. Spencer Fano is going to get a touchdown pass.
All right.
And or a 2-point conversion pass.
Eligible receiver. What's his 55, right?
Caleb,
55 eligible.
55 as reported as an eligible receiver. And the same thing for Caleb Lomu. Those guys are each going to get an opportunity to score.
And who knows, maybe there's a fumbled snap and they land in the end zone with a fumble recovery touchdown. Now
watch Jaron Kump just deliberately fumbles the snap and then grabs it and rumbles backwards into the end zone. Like, I'm not letting these young guys get the only big man touchdowns.
I'm the captain here.
No, hammer that, smash that. There's absolutely no chance that we go through an entire football season with 2 projected All-American level talents at tackle and they don't try to give them the ball, especially Spencer, because everyone talks about his freakish athleticism. It's almost like a gift you have to give.
Now that you said give Spencer Fano, flippantly give Spencer Fano the ball in the backfield. I don't care. I really want to see a goal line where he's lined up as fullback, running back, and mash that in.
That's not what I want to see. When you're lining up a big
That's
man
true.
fullback,
He needs to be blocking.
When you're lining up a big man fullback, it's a D lineman. That's
a good point. The fridge was a defensive lineman.
When you're going, it's like
because you need your lineman to block for those guys.
Well, they used to do this at Washington.
Give you that push.
His name's escaping me right now. Someone, the great defensive tackle at Washington, Shelton at Washington State. They did this with him. When you're trying to get,
I don't think Utah's done much of that.
Wrong. Steve Fifita.
Oh, my bad.
Fifi, it was, I believe, against BYU, scored a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. You line your defensive lineman up in the backfield just because there's a chance that people are diving at their knees to try and bring them down.
Yeah.
Now,
when you need your best lineman to give you that push.
You get those guys out in space, and you have them line up and kind of leak out in a little hide pass, and you just throw them the ball. That's what you do. The Lions did that with Penei Sewell.
Yep.
Because Oregon did that with Penei Sewell.
And what, Skipper? Is that the guy's name? The the one who's they're always the fans always fake cheer that when they say he's reported eligible because of the fiasco that happened in the Cowboys game a couple years ago.
2289 says, "Harken back to heavy Fifita." By the way, Fifi, if you're listening, nimble in the backfield. They tried to dive at his knees to take him out that way. Can't do it.
He just avoided it.
All
little scoot this way.
All 6 foot, 320 pounds of him or whatever it was. Not even a tall D lineman, just a little fire hydrant of a man
Massive.
Who could dance like a cat. You know what's crazy is that was Jerome Bettis for his entire career.
That's a good point.
Jerome Bettis was like 285 as a running back.
He was such a marvel to just look at as he was playing. I loved watching Jerome Bettis play because it's like a guy that big should not be able to move like that and doesn't play running back. And he did both.
So answer the question for me on Twitter at RealOC Sports, whether the best case scenario for Utah in the running back room is Wayshawn as the bell cow back, Rodgers as the bell cow back, an even split between the two, or running back by committee, which means you give those guys and whoever else emerges an even kind of distribution.
I don't think the running back by committee is the answer as far as the ideal. I think that if that's how it turns out and you get more than enough production out of it, great. But it seems to me, and maybe I'm just missing things here, but it seems to me that the running back by committee approach isn't always the most effective on offense. You want either a bell cow or an even split. But maybe I'm totally off base with that. I don't know.
Right now, the answers coming in on the Twitter poll are 53% want Wayshawn as the bell cow and 39% want an even split between the two. So far, nobody wants Nakari Rodgers to be the bell cow back. Even though Kyle Whittingham told you they're interchangeable. Why are you not listening to your head coach, ladies and gentlemen? He said that there's not a difference between them right now, not a market difference. But you on Twitter think you know more than Kyle? Wow. I'm calling him to tell him right now. James, get him on the phone. If you have not played Stansbury Park Golf Course yet, what are you even doing? Get out there this weekend. Tooele County, just right on the other side of the Oakers. Stansbury Park Golf Course is getting more popular, getting a little bit busier, but it's still not really busy. But for good reason. Challenge, pace, and a great price. Water on almost every hole. Beautiful greens. And you can play a full round without breaking the bank. $45 for 18 holes on weekdays, $50 on weekends, right off of I-80. The perfect place to go golf with your buddies, talk a little bit of trash. If you're the type who likes to go out and close a deal on a golf course in your business, your small business, maybe you're an account manager somewhere, take them out there to Stansbury Park Golf Course. It is a gem and a surprise in Tooele County. And you're going to look a lot smarter than you probably are because you listened to OC telling you, get out there, stansburypark.gov/golf course. That's stansburypark.gov/golf course. Tell them OC sent you. All right, I referenced this earlier. John Mateer, former Washington State quarterback, projected to be one of the Heisman Trophy favorites, projected to be the quarterback for a top 10 football team this year. He might be running himself into a little bit of trouble because of Venmo history. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. I'll tell you what I mean next on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Everybody pull out your phone right now, check your Venmo history, and make sure there's nothing suspect on there. Don't get yourself in any kind of trouble. And just, that's a sports gambling.
Oh.
November 20th, 2022. Sports gambling. November 20th, 2022. Sports gambling payment. UCLA versus USC in parentheses. And then, again, on the same day, sports gambling without any parenthetical reference. There's also a payment from Richard Roten to John Mateer with sports gambling referenced in it. So maybe this teammate was like being the bookie for his college football teammates. Guys.
Dumb.
Nobody actually cares if you bet on sports. Like, I promise you, nobody cares. If John Mateer, as a Washington State quarterback, wants to bet $5 or $500 on whether UCLA and USC is going to be a game that hits the over, whether the Bruins are going to pull off an upset there, I don't care at all. Utah fans, you shouldn't care at all. The only time sports gambling by athletes actually becomes a real issue is if it's on their own team, manipulating outcomes based on their own performance, if they're ever betting against their own team. If John Mateer had $10,000 bet on these games, I would not care at all. But guess what you do? If you're doing the Venmo payment, you say groceries.
Yeah.
You say pizza. You say,
you can put anything in there on Venmo.
My share of the Uber ride. You could put anything in there. In fact,
you could put a smiley face emoji, and that's it.
If you're in a normal functioning relationship with your spouse or significant other right now, whenever there has to be a Venmo exchange between the two of you, the correct thing to do is to put something inappropriate and flirtatious in there and to make it private. Don't put it public. Make it private and send an eggplant emoji to your wife or something like that.
Little peach.
when she's like, please pay me back for the dentist appointment or whatever, and you just throw something in there. You both know it's not actually for that, and you're just kind of hoping that it is eventually for that. But you don't make it public, and you certainly do not put, as a college athlete,
sports
gambling. Even if this is like a joke between you, where it's like that guy was your roommate and that's him paying his share of rent, and you're like, I'm going to say this is our sports gambling, whatever. Make it private, and then no one's going to find it.
Yeah.
What are you doing, John Mateer?
How about
the Oklahoma now has to investigate this. The NCAA and the College Sports Commission are going to get their grimy little fingers in it, and we might see, for the second time this cycle, a projected starting quarterback suspended from his team for a certain amount of time based on things that happened in 2022. One of these is sports gambling, harmless, victimless crime. The other is something that we've already talked about, and I'm not going to keep getting into, but gosh, people, this is so dumb, John Mateer.
It's really dumb.
If you're Coach Arbuckle, you're looking at this kid and you're just going, "What, John, what are you doing? Sports gambling? Just put anything else in there. Put a poop emoji in there.
Put a $sign emoji."
And people will be like, why is he paying that guy for poop? Doesn't make any sense. Gosh.
Who tipped this guy, the sleuth, the internet sleuth, off to go look through his Venmo search history? That's what I want to know. Like, who told the person that discovered this?
I bet no one. I bet no one. I bet this is just somebody who's like a Texas fan or an Oklahoma State fan.
Let me see if I can find some dirt.
Or like a Mississippi State fan who's like, they're brand new to the SEC. They already got more respect than us. I hate Oklahoma. I hate them. And just went back.
Go Bulldogs!
And just went back and just like, oh, look at what he found here. John Mateer has been illegally gambling on sports since 2022. I found it. Like,
I love that your Mississippi State fan voice is basically Mater.
Yes. Yes.
Tomateer out of Oklahoma.
Oh, there you go. Hey, how about that? All right, we got to take a break. Red and Blue next. Jerem Jordan joins us. Teams around the country are starting to make announcements on who wins the quarterback battle. There's one going on at BYU football camp. Are we going to get an announcement? We'll talk with our BYU insider next, Behind Enemy Lines, on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Time for a little Red and Blue, part of our Big 12 at noon coverage, brought to you by Mountainland Supply. Visit mountainlandsupply.com today. Jerem Jordan joins us live from behind enemy lines. He's at practice. He's our mole at BYU practice right now. Jerem, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm sure the brass administration loved that intro. I'm standing right next to the cold tubs. Do not ask me to get in.
Why not? Are you a cold plunge guy?
No Wim Hof method for me. Although I believe it.
I believe it. I think it's probably great for people.
I just want to do it.
I'm just not disciplined enough. I'm too big of a baby, so it's like It's like I know that eating Oreos is not good for me. I still eat them. I just don't have the
Still
discipline.
delicious.
All right.
No, I got a buddy that's like, yeah, every end of shower, last 30 seconds cold. I'm like, no. If anything, it'd be the beginning. Like, come on. No, but respect to those who do hard things. I don't want to do that hard thing.
Yeah, that's I'm lost. I did enough hard things earlier in my life. Now I'm
yes, you did.
Now I'm getting easy. I'm just doing everything easy, getting fat and happy. Let's talk about BYU and the preparation heading into the season. Of course, the number one question on people's minds is who the starting quarterback is going to be. How much clarity is there in that picture right now?
A little bit of clarity, in my opinion, happened Saturday when Aaron Roderick talked to the media and he spoke to Spencer Linton, my cohort in crime with BYU Sports Nation, and kind of talked about all three and said one has separated himself just a little bit. Didn't reveal who that is quite yet, but I believe, in my opinion, that Bear Bachmeier and McKay Hillstead are the top two right now, Trace and Bourget on the hunt behind them. And then Spencer and I actually have differing opinions of who's kind of got the nod. Right now, he believes McKay Hillstead does. I believe Bear Bachmeier, the true freshman, does. He's coming in really impressed. And I'd be confident with either of those two guys come August 30th. But they still have 18 days to figure things out, and they're getting better in practice. Today, in the media portion that we saw, again, it wasn't the whole practice, but Bear Bachmeier ran with the ones at the end of practice, McKay Hillstead with the twos. Does that mean Bear's the guy? No. But it does tell me that Bear Bachmeier has a legit shot to win this thing, which is pretty wild, and it's only because he had a senior transfer in July. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the situation.
Are we going to get an announcement like install week, or are they going to keep this one close to the vest? It seemed like Aaron Roderick wasn't really dedicated to keeping a secret this time.
Yeah, he said that to Spencer. He said, listen, I know last year we waited until game day. He said, I still have to talk to Kalani, but I don't see why it'd be an advantage for us. And I agree. Against Portland State, might as well just declare it to the world. The fan base can rally around him. Obviously, internally, everybody rallies around that guy. And frankly, the number two needs to be ready, too, because in college football, as we all know, you need a couple guys to go through a season typically. It was rare that Jake Retzloff made it through last year largely unscathed, was playing banged up, but was the starter and main guy the whole time. So I anticipate that they could perhaps at the end of this week or early next week figure out who the guy is when they finish training camp, when they're into their Portland State prep. We declare, they don't say it, Michael Scott. I didn't say it, I declared it, who the starting quarterback is, and then you run with that. You go.
Yeah. Is there any official paperwork they have to submit, or can they just Michael Scott it and just yell it out loud?
I declare. I think Kalani Sitake gets on the balcony and he just like says it to the world. Then we all know. It's very formal.
Oh, it's fantastic. All right. Well, until we have that announcement, let's have a little bit of fun and let's think of let's do some speculation on the reasoning behind whatever decision comes, because there are coaches out there, and I don't know if it's every coach in the world, but it's a lot of them. They're like, if all other things are equal, let's play the young guy and give him the growth and give him the opportunity and lean into the upside. That's if all other things are equal. With McKay Hillstead, he does have some experience, but is it meaningful enough experience that if you're part of this coaching staff, you're like, well, yeah, that's more proven. Yes, we've got, some equality going on here in camp, but we've seen that guy on game day. That's more proven than what we got with Bear Bachmeier. Like, how do you parse those things out? How do you weight one over another if we're tipping a scale in one direction?
That's a great point, because I've been saying in camp, I was surprised that, hey, Bear Bachmeier has a legit chance to win this. And the surprise was you just don't have a true freshman and actually have a shot here. The dude early enrolled at Stanford, and then he's a true freshman. Now he's here, which makes game 2 pretty interesting, by the way, on September 6th, should he be the guy. And you're right about McKay. Like, those reps were, I have it here, by the time it's game day, 616 days since he played in a college football game. If it's Trace and Bourget, it's 686. If it's Bear, it's since last fall, obviously, in high school. It's been a minute, and none have played Power for football. The thing is, if BYU was sort of like coming off 5-7 like last year, and they were just trying to build, I think there'd be maybe a tolerance for, okay, we can kind of obviously go with the freshmen, just see where we go. This team's built to win now. They are a quarterback away from contending for the Big 12 title. I mean, they were in the mix last year, and I didn't feel like Jake Retzloff had a great statistical year. You're sub 60%, you're sub 3,000 yards, you're 20 touchdowns, 12 picks. He was going to take a step in the right direction. and win BYU some games, which he did in the clutch a few times, but they leaned on a great defense and good run game. They feel like the run game's better this year. They feel like the defense is as good as last year. Special teams is going to be tremendous again. So it's, can that guy make enough throws when he needs to make them? Is it too early to throw in a true freshman? Is it sustainable if it's a 5'10" quarterback in McKay Hillstead or if it's Trayson Bourget? They've started at Utah State and Western Michigan. These are all valid questions. I don't know that we have the answer to any of this, but I'm excited to kind of see this process and work this guy in. If all things are equal, though, to me, I say play the freshman. He'll take his lumps. If BYU can kind of do an 8 or 9 win year with that guy, that'd be tremendous. Now you keep building. Obviously, you got a 5-star in the pipeline in the next couple of years. You ride with Bear for several years. Like the 26 class is looking amazing. Now you're cooking. But BYU is a quarterback away from really being a Big 12 contender. Can that guy help them enough? Because they got great pieces around them.
Jarom Jordan is my guest here, a little red and blue. We're behind enemy lines with BYU. When you have a quarterback question in fall camp, it sort of like smothers all other questions. And, you know, takes all the oxygen out of the room for like, well, what about your starting 5 offensive linemen? You lost some important talent there. What about your defensive front? You lost some important talent there. Are leaders emerging in those races?
Yes, they feel great about the offensive line. So Andrew Gentry is a guy that they really wanted out of high school, commits to Bronco Mendenhall at Virginia. He retires temporarily, right? He leaves Virginia. He ends up going to Michigan and winning a natty. He plays in 26 games. He starts 2 before he gets to Liz Frank last year. He's a guy they feel great about at right tackle now that he's healthy. At left tackle, Isaiah Jota came over a couple years ago from Colorado. He played some last year. They really like him at left tackle. Both those guys, 6'6", 6'8", experienced 5th and 4th year guys. Waylon Lapuaho, Bruce Mitchell, Sonny Makasina, Austin Leosa. They like those 4 guys kind of in the interior there. They feel like they're good 7-8 deep, got some young guns behind them. They feel good about the O-line. D-line's a legit question because they lost all 4 guys. Obviously, Tanu Vasa is a massive add. Logan Latui's back. He was kind of your first backup. And then John Tamuapeo played a bit. He'll be one of your defensive tackles. And then that other edge rusher, you got Miley Kafusi, Sione Puha's kid, Viliami Bodie-Schoonover. They kind of been waiting their time, played a little bit here and there. It is a question. Justin Kirkland transferred from Oklahoma State. He would be a good nose. He's banged up a little bit, might be out a few games. We'll see how long he's out. But it is a little more of a question mark at D-line minus Tanu Vasa. You know he's going to be a wrecker. Who else can make plays there? Jay Hill on Saturday said they feel like their pass rush is better, which is good because it wasn't great last year. But honestly, when they didn't get certain sacks, how many of those were part of the 22 interceptions, which led the country? Sometimes it's not the worst thing. Sometimes they throw a pick on a would-be sack.
Yeah, we were talking. We're setting projections for Utah's pass rush this year because by Ute standards, it was a subpar year in the pass rush. It was middle of the pack, sort of, in the Big 12. And there are some numbers that are surprising.
Manifesting.
Yeah. Don't put that evil on me, all right? I don't want to appear on Cougar Board for misspeaking, all right? BYU only 20 sacks last year. And again, you say only 20 sacks. They were the best defense in the conference. So it's not like it killed them. But that was a surprising number for me because, you need a pass rush. You're supposed to have a great pass rush. Really, only 2 teams in the conference did, and it was Colorado and Kansas State. Neither of them won a conference championship because of it. Neither of them came in at the top of the defensive numbers elsewhere because of it. So I'm making it a big point for Utah. It's been such a part of Utah's defensive identity for so long. How big a deal is it for BYU to get better numbers in that pass rush?
Who doesn't want more havoc, right? But I think your primary playmakers on this team are Tanu Vasa, going to create trouble in the middle on the D-line there, and then Jack Kelly and Isaiah Glasker. There's 2 NFL backers right there. Then they've got good corners with ball hawking skills. The safeties, they played 5 dudes last year that didn't leave. So they feel great about Tanner Wall and Raider Demooney, Tommy Prassis, Falatau Satuala, Talon Alfrey. They like that group a lot. So basically, D-line, make them make a play, stuff the run, and they feel like that back 7 and sometimes 8 is going to make a bunch of plays. I think BYU's best pass rushers are actually Kelly and Glasker. Glasker, as we've talked about, is the closest thing BYU's had to Kyle Van Noy, Fred Warner type. This guy is a bigger safety. He's put on 51 pounds since he came to BYU from Bingham. This dude is an absolute wrecker wherever he plays. None more evident than when he did the prime dance in front of Deion in the bowl game. I mean, that was quite the moment. By the way, he said he did that out of respect. Like, he loves Deion, so he wanted to do it. It did look like he was giving him the business, if you will.
Yeah,
but,
it looks like you're dunking on him.
It was an awesome moment, let's be honest.
And guess what? That's fine because Deion dunked on so many people in his life and his career. So to do it to him, he needs to be on. Sometimes you're the hammer. Rarely has Deion ever been the nail. So I like that.
Deion's up 278-4. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Are people still sleeping on BYU too much in your mind? I mean, you and I have had this conversation, and my listeners probably hate hearing me continue to have this conversation. I don't even know how good whoever the quarterback ends up being has to be. Obviously, it can't be a detriment to your success. But like we've talked about before, it's everything else on this team that gives me confidence that they're going to be pretty good. And when I say everything else, it starts with that coaching staff more than anything. Yet I'm looking right now. I check very frequently. The odds have not moved a ton as of late, but BYU has like the ninth longest odds to win a conference championship in the Big 12 right now. Kansas State, Texas Tech, Arizona State, Utah, Baylor, TCU, Iowa State, and Kansas all considered to be favorites over BYU in that chase.
Yeah, and honestly, without knowing who the quarterback is, it's somewhat fair. But I think BYU's formula, their business model, if you will, for how they win isn't quarterback reliance. I don't think that's being taken into account as much. Obviously, if you have a quarterback that can make plays and win you games, that makes you a conference championship contender. You have to be great around that guy if that guy's not great. I thought that's what BYU was last year. I thought Jake Retzlaff was good. I would have put him probably, honestly, the 6th or 7th best QB in the Big 12 last year. Yet BYU was, you could argue strongly that BYU was probably the 2nd or 3rd best team in the league. They wanted that chance for a Big 12 title and didn't get it and a playoff berth. They were a game off. And they feel super hungry. Now, in football, we can't act like the quarterback is this massive, massive piece and then just like ignore it when it's inconvenient. I'm not about ignoring inconvenient things. Certainly BYU with Jake Retzlaff, we'd be talking about they're a contender for the Big 12 title. Absolutely. They're a top 4 team in this league. They should be in the mix. Now, when you don't have that piece, I think it's fair to say they're outside looking in on that. But what if one of those guys kind of run, like you said, game manager, doesn't turn it over, all the Aaron Roderick love languages of take care of the ball, be explosive, make good decisions, move the chains, move with your feet a little bit. They're not going to be asked to do as much as I think a normal guy would because of the pieces around them, which is kind of nice when you're breaking in a new guy. If they were saying, hey, Bear Bachmeier, you got to win us games, that's unrealistic. That's too soon for his development at this point. So we'll see who the guy is and kind of how that plays out. But I think BYU is pretty comfortable in the – last year you thought we'd be 13th. This year you think we're kind of 8th or 9th. All right, let's prove them wrong again.
I need someone who has Photoshop skills for me to take that Spider-Man meme where the two Spider-Mans are just pointing at each other and have it be like 2025 BYU on one side and like 2017 Utah football on the other side, because you're talking about, I mean, what you just described was the thing that Utah football fans went crazy over for so many years. Like, stop with the ball control, stop with the only caring about taking care of the football. But that's like, I mean, it won a lot of games up on the hill, and I think it could down in Provo as well.
Yeah, it's a different way of doing it. Is it the flashiest, funnest way for a lot of people to watch football? No, but guess what? You give that quarterback a couple of games, get them into the system. And frankly, the first 6 for BYU, very different than the last 6. Especially there's kind of a run of 4 games there for BYU where it's Utah at Iowa State, which is just brutal the next week. Bye week at Texas Tech, TCU at home. I mean, that is, if you can go 2-2 in that, I think that's pretty stinking good. But the first 6, BYU's got a manageable first 6 where they could absolutely, with the formula we're talking about, be 5-1, be a 6-0, be, I expect, no worse than 4-2. But if you're competing for a conference title, you want to be in that kind of 6-0 space. And if you lose twice, you hope the tiebreakers go your way, ... So it's always a kind of wait and see. But there are enough proven cats on this squad where I go, listen, BYU's going to be good. It's just how good.
I was complaining the other day because the preseason All-America team for ESPN came out, and there's only one Big 12 guy on it. It's Spencer Fano, which, of course, we love.
Fano.
But
yeah.
The conference, I think Jordan Tyson from Arizona State was a second team projected. And I know those preseason lists are only, they're effectively meaningless, but it also does shape thought and perception at this point in the college football world. And when there's no mention of, hey, these are the most important players in college football, and there's nobody in a quarterback-rich conference or a conference with a ton of really good defensive players, and I understand there's great ones in the SEC and the Big Ten and the ACC as well, but I get real grouchy about the idea that we've already set an expectation in the media world like, hey, you probably actually don't need to watch Big 12 football because they're just going to beat each other up, and the conference champ's going to be a 3-loss team, and none of their players are as good as the players elsewhere. Is there anyone at BYU that will this year or could this year force their way into that conversation that Spencer Fano is already in and maybe Jordan Tyson's already in, but we need more Big 12 players in?
Yeah, I love Keanu Tanuvasa being in the mix to be tackle. If he puts up, some stats, Isaiah Glasker, I think, is going to stuff the stats sheet again. It's harder for offensive linemen, but I do think like Andrew Gentry and Isaiah Jada, Waylon Lapuahu, they have a chance to really make a name for themselves. It's a running back league too. I think LJ Martin emerges as one of the kind of the top 6 guys in the league. He's a little thinner, a little faster. He's been kind of a double guy, if you will. I think he hits some triples, maybe some homers. I think about that 39-yard run at Utah. I think he needs to break away and score on that. I think this year maybe he does. Chase Roberts is a guy that's, I think, one of the top 20 receivers in America. He could put up 1,000. So, yeah, I think there are a handful of guys that could emerge that way. But if they don't, it's not a specifically for BYU. And I hear you on the national perception thing. But for BYU sort of ability to win, do you have to have a 1,000-yard rusher? Do you have to have a 1,000-yard guy? They proved last year, not necessarily. But good gosh, we like it when there is. We like it when there's a 3,000-yard passer. We like it when there's a 1,000-yard rusher or receiver. So we'll see what happens in those areas. And really, like in 5 years, we'll look back and go, oh, look at all those NFL guys. Like in the moment, it's hard to sort of see that sometimes. But I'm with you on the Big 12 needs some more elite in some stuff. And preseason perception sometimes shapes that a little bit. But it's hard watching that where it's like, oh, just this guy and this guy and this guy. I would argue you've got, 6 of the top, 25 quarterbacks in America in the league, but just because one of them isn't the top 1 or 2, they don't get the love like that. Like Sam Levitt should get the love. Josh Hoover should get the love. Rocco Becht, Avery Johnson. This is a good league, man.
Will you indulge me and play some Utah football over-under with me?
I'm ready for that.
Okay. For Utah's top sack man this year, I set the over-under at 9.5. Does Utah have a double-digit sack man in 2025?
You tell me on this one, man. Is there someone that's getting into the backfield in that? And do you have a D end of this, or are you thinking Lander Barton's getting in there that much?
It's so hard for a linebacker to have 10 sacks. I was like, the reason I wanted to bring, because if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be Logan Fano, who, the BYU world knows pretty well. And beyond that, I'm hopeful for everyone else. John Henry, it's Logan Fano, it's John Henry Daly, it's Paul Fitzgerald. It's guys from other schools in Utah.
Welcome to 2025. Dude.
Yeah, exactly. What about 34.5 sacks as a team? For context, that is just over. If they hit the over, that's the decade average for the University of Utah. 35.2 sacks per year is what they've done over the last decade. And last year it was 24, so it would be a huge improvement from what you saw last year. But where do you set the sack number if I say over-under 34.5 for Utah?
I'd go 29.5, just to be in the middle right there. That is an astounding number, by the way. BYU has not had a large amount of sacks. That's something, obviously, we talked about, the havoc. They created in other ways. You would love to have sacks, too. Those are just drive wreckers. Yeah, give me 29.5.
All right. Okay. Jerem Jordan.
I didn't say over under. I just said the number I would set it at.
No, yeah, he's yeah. I will then infer that he's hammering the under because he hates all of you Utah people. Put words in your mouth, obviously.
No, that's not true, but I do like Maxwell.
Well, again, appreciate you joining us, especially right from practice. It's, if anyone's still lingering out there, tell them we said hi on that coaching staff, and we'll chat again soon. Thank you for joining me on Red and Blue.
Absolutely. And listen, red, blue, all of it. Hey, we're so close to the season. This is going to be awesome.
Wait, don't leave yet. I forgot. I have to ask you this. Your Venmo protocol, when you are said when you're
private, dude. Every single one's private.
Thank you. Exactly. Yes, that is the correct answer.
No one's gonna catch me with any Venmo. I promise you that.
You make them all private, and you just throw emojis on
with
there.
Your buddies, you say like a weird thing, karate lessons when it wasn't or whatever. One time I can't remember what I said, but they like flagged it. I was like, oh. Yeah, so it was something super innocent, but I was like, oh, I gotta say the actual thing here, maybe.
Yeah,
cricket lessons.
Yeah, just put the emoji in there and move on, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway,
sports gambling, that was hilarious, and then there's all these fake images from everybody. That was pretty funny.
Photoshop's a miracle, man, and you could get some really funny stuff out there.
It makes me laugh.
Thanks, Jerem.
Thanks, Sean. See you guys.
Jerem Jordan, BYU Insider, BYU Sports Nation, joins us every week on Red and Blue. Right now, as I mentioned, just to refresh here, FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the PFL, which is why I use FanDuel.
And John Mateer.
Yes, FanDuel, right now, Big 12 championship odds as of the most recent refresh on their website, their official website. Kansas State plus 550, Texas Tech plus 550, Arizona State plus 550, Utah plus 600, Baylor plus 650, TCU plus 800, Iowa State, Kansas State, BYU. When I was talking to Jerem and mentioned this, it was plus 2,500. Now it's plus 2,700. Like that was 4 minutes ago.
Someone at FanDuel was listening, and they're like, "I don't like what I'm hearing. We're gonna bump this back a little bit."
UCF plus 8,000 if you want to put some money on the Knights.
All right.
Whoever was doing,
if you want to lose a little bit of money, put it on the Knights.
Well, hold
Absolutely.
Hold on, James. If you had gone back to August 12th, 2024, what kind of number do you think was next to the Arizona State Sun Devils?
Yeah, good point.
Could have made some dough.
Probably like plus 20,000.
It probably wasn't that bad. But like,
I mean, picked 16th in the conference though, all the way to 1. I mean, the odds had to have been really long.
Exactly. So somebody last year was
Scott Frost is back. Let's make some money.
There's somebody last year who was just like, Arizona State at plus 6,500. I'll throw 100 on that. And they won Vegas weekend.
So James Peterson now, wait, UCF plus 8,000 with Scott Frost back at the helm?
Yeah, just Venmo me. Just Venmo me what your bet is, James.
I just remembered what I typically do. When I Venmo my friends, I usually put illegal drugs as in parentheses. So no one look at my. Oh shoot! I just told the world.
James Peterson cat's buying a lot of illegal drugs. You're gonna get it raided. Your house is gonna get swatted. You know what the worst part of it's gonna be? It's gonna wake the baby up from a nap. And you're never gonna live it down.
Seriously, come on now.
Yeah.
Don't you know we have a newborn here?
Don't swat James Peterson's house for drugs. Okay. His child is sleeping. Leave him alone.
Also, it was a joke. Come on, people.
Maybe.
Yeah, allegedly.
We'll see. All right. Yahoo's got a list of surprise teams that could make the 2025 college football playoff. Guess who's on it? We'll talk about it next on ESPN 700. 92.1 FM. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. 5 dark horse college football teams that could sneak their way into the national championship conversation. Tell me you don't love a headline like that. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Live Night Events presents the 2025 Granary Live Concert Series powered by Nightingale College and Murdoch Hyundai. That's Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer. Outdoor concerts in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City's Granary District. Details are available at ESPN700sports.com. Maybe we'll get a little Josh Pate on the show to talk about this, but 5 teams that could sneak into the national championship conversation. Josh Pate and Yahoo think that Utah belongs in that conversation. The list is this. Illinois, their odds right now to win the national championship are 200-1. To make the college football playoff is a plus 500. So Miami getting some love as well. 30-1 for Miami. That's they're not exactly a dark horse at 30-1, but they're on this list as well.
Top 10 AP ranking too. Not really a dark horse.
Oklahoma, odds to win the national championship, 50-1, plus 500 for them to make the college football playoff. Texas Tech, odds to win the national championship, 100-1. College football playoff odds are at plus 400. So that's interesting. People think it's more likely that Texas Tech wins the Big 12 championship, I guess, and gets into the college football playoff than like Oklahoma or Illinois or Miami making a college football playoff. So Tech getting some love there, even though they're not ranked nearly as high. Oh, wait, no, they're longer odds than Miami, but shorter odds than Oklahoma and then Illinois. And then the 5th team on this list, Utah. National championship odds, 125-1.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Hey. College football playoff odds, again, plus 500. So are you putting money on Utah to make it into the college football playoff? To do that, you're effectively putting money on them winning a conference championship because nobody should be counting on the Big 12 having more than one team.
Yeah. Not this year, hopefully soon in recent seasons in the near future, but probably not this year.
The blurb is short enough that I can give it to you. Is it as simple as better quarterback play for Utah to challenge for the national title? It'd probably take more than that, but it would go a long way. Utah quarterbacks threw for fewer than 200 yards per game and completed just 56% of their passes in 2024. Enter Devin Dampier, who threw for nearly 2,800 yards and rushed for 1,166 yards and 19 scores at New Mexico a season ago. Dampier should be a massive upgrade for a Utah offense that will likely resemble the scheme he ran in 2024. Former New Mexico offensive coordinator Jason Beck is now calling plays for the Utes. So a bunch of information that you already know, and then they go on to talk about how good the defense always is, and finish with you don't have to squint too hard to see how this could be a bounce back season in a big way and a fitting send off for Whittingham if he decides to retire.
They're putting that out there. Okay.
Well,
Yahoo Sports.
There's always that subtext in the conversation.
Yeah.
But we have learned locally that you just got to leave it alone, right?
Yeah, stop talking about it, Josh Pate.
Well,
Yahoo Sports.
The thing is, there's never until Kyle Whittingham calls a press conference because somebody broke the news, we're not going to know.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like this could be the final ride. Last year felt that way. The Penn State Rose Bowl year felt that way. The Ohio State Rose Bowl year felt that way. I mean, you just never know.
Do we think Witt's just going to be like, you know what? Is it going to be year to year, and then 30 years from now he's going to be like, I'm going to win that national championship, and then I'm going to retire.
Well,
at over 90 years old at that time, that'd be ridiculous.
There's a conversation to be had about what the fitting send off is.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
and I think it is a year. You have to beat BYU.
Yeah.
And you have to be in the conference championship game at the very least.
Yeah, I mean it certainly isn't a year like they had the past 2 seasons. It's not one of those kind of years.
No way. So we know that.
Also, can I say this? What I don't appreciate your tone, Yahoo Sports, when you say Utah quarterbacks threw for whatever. All right, like I don't like the tone.
Well,
you don't have to say it like that.
They only had 300 words for the Utah portion there, and if you would have used up all of them to name the quarterbacks,
it's a good point.
Just insane.
I'll overlook it for now. Maybe that's gonna be my grievance this week.
All right. This, you know what? This could have been a grievance, but I'm not going to save it till then because something very strange is happening with a week 1 game featuring 2 premier teams and the preseason poll as well. Some numbers aren't matching up. We're going to talk about it next on the Sean O'Connell Show. Then Jeff Schwartz is going to join us at the top of hour number 3. Don't go anywhere. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. So we talked yesterday about how Texas was the number one team in the country for the first time in the AP preseason poll. Surprising, shocking. I would have thought that in their long and decorated history, at some point, Texas would have been the number one preseason team. Not the case. Most of you know that Texas and Ohio State are the premier matchup of the opening weekend of college football. Not week 0, but the week 1, actually, let's kick this thing off in earnest, slate of weekend games. It's the game. There's actually not a lot of great games.
I really think Utah-UCLA is probably the second best game. Unless I'm overlooking something that you're seeing on week 1. Like, there's an argument that Utah, UCLA, 2 unranked teams, but power 4 matchup, interconference matchup is the second best one in the week, which is, it's not near as strong
from a brand recognition standpoint
as Texas, Ohio State.
You would say Alabama, Florida State is probably another premier matchup. And beyond that, it gets real thin. It's actually LSU Clemson, great game.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
LSU Clemson is a great game.
I'm definitely overlooking that one.
So that one's number 2. Alabama, Florida State is probably number 3.
From like an eyeballs thing because of the brands, but as far like Florida State's not projected to be that good this year. Alabama obviously is. I mean, it's actually a pretty thin opening weekend, if we're being honest. Which the good part about it is you don't have to crowd in a bunch of games to watch. You can watch the morning matchup between James's Buckeyes and the Texas Longhorns, and then you can probably run an errand or two, and you can watch kind of with one eye Alabama and Florida State, and then your second premier game is that LSU Clemson game. That's a 5:30 Mountain Time kickoff. And, of course, you got the late game, Utah and UCLA. But going back to the premier matchup, okay, Texas, number 1, at Ohio State, at the shoe, number 3. Texas is a 2.5-point dog here. It is the first time ever since ESPN started tracking odds on bets that the number 1 team opens the season as an underdog, which is true. Are they favorites in the game, or are they the number 1 team in the country, or are they underdogs and not the number 1 team in the country? Right. And if this was a neutral site game, maybe Texas is favored.
Well, the 2.5-point line would suggest that, because
certainly if it's in Austin, they'd be favored.
It's usually 3 points for the home team.
Yeah. So they'd be slight favorites on a neutral field, which I think tells you, yes, even Vegas, even the betting sites, the sports books believe that Texas is the number 1 team in the country. They obviously don't vote in the AP poll, but they only believe that they're slightly the best team in the country because they'd only be giving them like half a point, maybe a full point on a neutral field over the number 3 team in the country in Ohio State. I really like, it's obviously the fact that it's a road game that swings it in Ohio State's favor, but it is curious that it's that close of like, yeah, we think they're the best team in the country, but only by a little bit if there's no home field advantage.
So right now, and look, lines can move, and maybe Ohio State's quarterback is going to have a Venmo history as well that ends up changing things.
Or maybe, I mean, they haven't even named a clear starter yet, or a clear front runner for the starter. Maybe that ends up, maybe that doubt caused by that ends up swinging the line at some point.
You would think uncertainty would actually be the thing that would swing that line in Texas's favor. But in any case, Arch Manning and the Texas Longhorns are underdogs in week 1, despite the fact that they're the number 1 team in the country. It has never before happened where there's dissonance between Vegas and the AP like this. Never.
Is it a new SEC slogan? Does it mean enough?
It just means more unless you're on the road at the shoe. Is the full?
I mean, Big Ten. Supposed to be superior to the Big Ten and everyone else in the conference, but number one team in the country, but not a favorite, not a betting favorite. Okay.
I mean, the thing is, Ohio State. The fact that they're the number 3 team in the preseason, and we talked about this a little bit, the uncertainty for virtually any other team about not knowing who the quarterback is going to be would probably drop you to like 8 at least. I mean, that's where Alabama ended up.
Yeah.
And Alabama just named their starter.
But I think it's the power of not only the brand in Ohio State, but also it's the power of being the reigning national champions.
Well,
like that.
It's also the power of you have probably the best overall offensive player in the game.
Yes, you have a Heisman favorite.
And a lot of people think you also have the best defensive player in the game in Caleb Downs.
Yeah. But here's the thing, like, I think only 3 offensive starters are returning and then only like 3, maybe like 5 defensive starters. This is about as much uncertainty that Ohio State's had in Ryan Day's tenure going into a season. They've always had more than that returning because they have, underclassmen who shine early, who can't go to the draft, or you have disappointing seasons like during the CJ Stroud era. You have disappointing seasons and it causes your guys that would normally leave for the NFL to say, no, we got to run it back because we had too much of a bad taste in our mouth. We got to change that this year. There's so much roster uncertainty now. Of course, they're replacing it with a bunch of 4- and 5-star guys. So that's the benefit of the doubt right there.
My headphones just went on the fritz. That's crazy. We didn't talk about this, and it kind of drives me nuts. As long as we got Texas on the mind, with the Longhorns being the first number 1 team to be an underdog in week 1 of college football, as far as we know. Archie Manning this week went public and said Arch Manning is not going to the NFL next year. He said he's going to be at Texas. Do we believe that? Archie is the patriarch of that Manning clan.
Yeah, the grandfather.
He's the
Arch.
He's the granddad.
This is not the dad like we saw with Peyton and Eli and him pulling some strings there. This is grandfather talking for grandson.
But I mean, it's kind of like the top. I've been watching Succession. I've been catching up on that show, Succession. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not yet, but I've heard plenty about it.
And it's like, he's the Logan Roy. He's the guy at the top. Everyone else is kind of like, even Peyton and Eli, who are some of the more powerful figures, especially Peyton, you're going to find in that elite football world, are like deferential to Archie. And Archie has said, no, man, he's going to be at Texas. And they've talked about this going all the way back to last year. Like, hey, don't assume that Arch is going to do things the way that everyone else does. Because, look, he hasn't done things the way everyone else does. He was a $4 million a year backup at Texas. He was a guy that could have gone to any other school in the country and been given the keys. And they would have made him the starter. And at Texas, Steve Sarkisian had this luxury of being like, I have this legendary name, this legacy player, not at Texas, but a legacy player in the football world who is willing to sit and learn and be used in spot situations because that's what his parents and his grandparents and his extended family with his uncles think is the right thing. Like he was taught, you're not entitled to be the starter just because your name is Arch Manning or just because you're a 5-star recruit or just because you're the number 1 guy in the country. If you chose to go to a school and your coach thinks that this other guy is the better player, you're not leaving. You're staying. That's insane in today's world. Now, we've talked about it on the show before. Arch is in a situation where he doesn't have to make decisions the same way as everyone else does, he knows he's going to be an NFL player. Even if he wasn't individually, personally going to be an NFL player, he is going to be able to make money and a career and a life off of the name on the back of his jersey. So he doesn't have to like strike while the iron's hot in a way that everybody else does. But it's still admirable to me that he is taking this gradual and slow approach. And now his grandpa is saying it's going to be even slower than you think. He's going to be at Texas again next year. Before he's even taken a snap in 2025, he's going to be at Texas. And I actually love this statement most because it's a reminder for everyone, and one that I needed, quite honestly. Like, you actually don't know if he's going to be a great quarterback as an every down starter. You don't know that. You think you know that, and it probably is going to be, he's going to be pretty darn good, and he has the measurables and the traits, the physical traits, and the name that if he wants to go to the NFL, he can. But we don't know that he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the country this year. We assume so. We don't know it. And it's good that even his grandpa, the guy who should be his biggest cheerleader, and I know is his biggest cheerleader, but is also the realist and played the position, and his sons played the position and are Hall of Famers, and he's like, he's going to be at Texas. Serves as a reminder, like, nothing is guaranteed. Even if you're Arch Manning, nothing is guaranteed that the NFL is going to be your obvious destination next year. I think it's like a 95% plus chance that he ends up being one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. But stranger things have happened.
I'm inclined to believe Archie and Arch and that that this is not going to be his only year as a full-time starter in college football. But if he has the year people expect him to have, Heisman finalist, Texas goes to the playoff, maybe wins a national championship, he's projected throughout the draft process to be the number one overall pick. I find it hard to believe that he's just gonna be, that he and his family are just going to turn their noses up at. I don't care if I'll be the number one overall pick this year. I'm going back because that's always been the plan. I find it hard to believe in that scenario, but right now I totally believe that has been their plan, and that's the plan that they have at this moment.
Here's where the plan changes. If the New Orleans Saints end up with a top 1, 2, or 3 pick,
the hometown team, yeah,
and he is a top 1, 2, or 3 player, he ain't going to Texas.
Right. The Saints, I mean, that matters too. That's basically that was anyway. Peyton and Eli and Cooper's hometown. Did Arch also grow up in New Orleans? Did Cooper make a life in New Orleans? I'm not sure, but the family's hometown because of Archie's time in the NFL with the Saints. Like, yeah, that I would think changed things in particular. But I think being the consensus number one overall pick throughout the draft process leading up to when he's supposed to declare whether or not he's going to enter the draft, mid-January or whatever, late January, I would think that would be enough to change the plan too. But I mean, also all of the things that you said is true. They're doing things differently than top talents in college football have ever done. Well, certainly are doing in recent years.
Isidore Newman High School in New Orleans.
Okay, yeah. So a New Orleans kid.
If it's the Saints that are like, hey, we're going to draft you, you're not going back to Texas.
All right. That's where Grandpa went, and who I'm named after, and is a legend. Yeah, and it's the hometown. Yeah, that would certainly change some things, I would think.
All right, got to take a break. We come back with Jeff Schwartz, NFL college football discussion. Utah's number one sports talk. It's ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show, and welcome in Jeff Schwartz, my longtime co-host, and now someone I avoid at all costs, except when he helps us out here on the show. He'll be joining us throughout the football season, talking college, talking NFL, talking some of the betting lines. Jeff, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I just got my Ed Hardy shirt for Friday night. I'm very excited. I'm going to fit in well with the crowd there at the Bojangles Coliseum. I'm thrilled.
Yes, our PFL fights this weekend are in Charlotte, Jeff's hometown, at Bojangles Coliseum. So while you all will be watching on ESPN, Jeff will be sitting I'm getting him nosebleed seats. It's going to be fantastic. But you'll be dressed like a real MMA fan in a sparkly shirt and glitter jeans.
I don't even know what to wear. I legit have no idea. Like, do I dress like I would go to like a media day, just like slacks and a polo shirt? I'm befuddled by what I wear.
Well, it really all depends on who you're bringing with you. Like, if it's a lads' night, if it's out with the guys, you just try to look cool. If you're bringing your lady, oftentimes at prize fights, the significant other, the better half, will end up wearing, something kind of nice, and then you got to match that. So it's really up to you.
Okay, you'll see Meredith on Thursday. You can try to convince her to show up. It's going to be a tough sell.
I'm going to make a case. I'm going to do my best.
Wear my Jeff Schwartz's finest, whatever that's going to be.
Okay, so Oregon Ducks hoodies. Wonderful. All right.
Good. Yeah, maybe.
Hey, good enough. Okay, so we were just talking about this. For the first time ever, the number one team in the preseason poll is an underdog in their week 1 game. Now, I know it's because they're at the shoe. Texas, number 1, Ohio State, number 3. This betting dissonance has never happened before. If you're playing this game, how you playing it?
Oh, I like Texas in this game, right? I mean, I think I'm in the minority here. I'm not sure I like Texas for the season, but I think we're ignoring, Sean. Ohio State loses a ton of production, right? Like, they lose their quarterback, their running backs, a bunch of offensive linemen. They lose wide receivers. They have the best wide receiver in the country and the best defensive player in the country in Caleb Downs. But they also lose a bunch of their pass rush. Like, they lose a lot of guys off that team from last year. And Texas loses less. Plus, they have a quarterback in Arch who has played before, right? He played last year. He threw the ball 100 times. I think he had at least one start, right, when Quinn Ewers was hurt. So, like, he's played before. I don't think that stadium is that much of a home field advantage. I mean, the Ohio State fans complain all the time about how they hate these big new kickoffs because it ruins sort of the crowd atmosphere, Sean. So I just don't think that these teams are that far apart. The numbers will tell you that. And I think Texas is better, might be better. So I think Texas wins this game.
The Arch Manning conversation is always interesting. He has been in spot duty, and what we've seen from him has been good. Do you expect him to be one of the top 10, top 5 quarterbacks in the country?
It's a great question. I think it's probably a no, but maybe by the end of the year, yes. I mean, again, like, there is so much pressure on him, and just we have not seen enough to make that determination. Plus, it's a really good quarterback year in general. Like, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks this year that are playing good football. So I think probably no, but I think if you're a hopeful Texas fan, you hope by the end of the year that he has become that type of player for you, because that obviously will help you win a lot of football games. I think not yet. By the end of the year, I think he could be up there if he plays up to potential.
Localizing things a little bit more here in the Big 12. Right now, you have to check every day. Right now, there are 3 teams tied with the top odds to win the conference championship, and we've talked about how Utah is getting a little bit more love as a kind of a dark horse for a conference championship, dark horse for a college football playoff. How much better does their offense need to be from a year ago in order for that to be a likelihood or a possibility for Utah? I set the over-under on, can you get an extra touchdown out of this offense, out of Devin Dampier? Is that going to be enough?
Can you complete forward passes to wide receivers at an average rate?
You, you know, you know, you know they scored more passing touchdowns last year than rushing touchdowns.
Well, that's because yeah, a lot of people were hurt last year.
Yeah.
And you're behind, and you're trying to force the issue. Like I just what I mean. Like we've been talking about this for 6 years now. It's like are they going to have an explosive passing game that is a complement to whatever else they're going to do offensively, right? Like if they can, and again, it doesn't have to be a ton, just something to keep the defense honest. Something that it is really hard in college football to have drives that go 12 plays and a touchdown. Right? These are college kids. They make college mistakes. And so the quicker you can score, the better. The better, right? The better you should play. The more opportunities you have to score points. And I think that's why explosive plays are so important, not just because you might need to score quickly at a given time, but more that it makes it where you have less opportunity for mistakes, honestly, offensively. So to me, like that's why explosive plays are so important. Utah can get those this year, Sean. They are right where they need to be. Again, I told you last week, I'm high on Utah this year. I like the additions at quarterback. I like the offensive line. I like bringing the coordinator with the quarterback. I think that's worked out in the past. We've seen it as a positive. So I think Utah can do it. Again, wide receiver is a question.
How do you prefer a team approaches a running back situation? Do you like a bell cow back? Do you like a 1-2 punch? Running back by committee, I don't think is anyone's favorite ever. But there was some conversation at practice yesterday. Kyle Whittingham trying to light a fire, I guess, and saying, hey, Wayshawn Parker, the transfer from Washington State, and Nakari Rogers, the transfer from New Mexico, are interchangeable, is what he said. Now, Rogers then went and he spoke to the media and said, well, I'm mostly running with the twos. So maybe debunked what Kyle Whittingham was trying to say. But nonetheless, there's different ways teams can approach this.
Yeah.
What do you like best?
I'm a fan of like 70-30, Sean, where it's 70%, one running back, 30% the other one. And it's a rhythm issue. Like you need to get in a rhythm as a running back with your offensive line. And you can't do that if you don't play with them enough. That's what to me is the concern, is that you want to be able to have and see the same things your offensive linemen see, so you can make corrections and get comfortable with how they're going to block certain looks. You can only do that if the running back gets the amount of reps needed, so he can do that. And so that's why, to me, like the 50-50, I think in the long run that's not what you want to be at. Now, of course, early in the season, injuries and just maybe prevention of injuries, you don't want to have your backs take that many reps, and 50-50 might work out. But when you get to the season, bowl season, I think you really would like to have one guy be the one getting 7% of the carries.
Jeff Schwartz is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking all things college football. We'll get to some NFL here in a minute. What relationship should a team have with the pass rush in 2025? Utah had 24 sacks last year. They did not have a double-digit sack man. Obviously, when you look at the national leaders, it's good to have a great pass rush. But in the Big 12 Conference, maybe alone, the top defenses didn't have great pass rushes last year, which is kind of an outlier and kind of weird. I set the magic number for Utah at 34.5 because that's their 10-year average, effectively.
Yeah.
And last year they had 24. This year they don't have an obvious star pass rusher who's deeply established coming back. It's kind of a flipping of the running back coin, I think, where you can get those numbers by committee in the pass rush, but it's not easy. So do they need 35 sacks in order to be a conference championship contender?
I think the second year Georgia won a championship, they were very middle of the pack for sacks. Like they weren't a team that got a ton of sacks. They got a ton of pressures though, right? Like pressures are important, right? Now you want to turn those into sacks because that can force fumbles and be demoralizing. But like you don't need sacks. You need pressures, right? And that's sometimes a function of your defensive backfield, right? Being able to stay in front of receivers allows oftentimes pass rush to get home. I think that the thing that you would like is in big moments you do need a guy, right? Like you need a guy that can get home for you. I think generally speaking, you don't need to have a ferocious 50 sack season to be good. But again, Sean, you do need someone in those big spots to get home for you. But again, like if you can collectively do it, there's nothing wrong with having 4 or 5 guys with 5 or 6 sacks, no one with 17.
How when you're blocking, when you're trying to block a team that has like a pass rush by committee versus one dude who's just a gangster, what different challenges does that present for an offensive line?
I mean, I guess it allows you to rush without help. If you have a guy who's really good, you're going to try to help that guy out, right? And if you have just more of a by committee, then you get more one-on-one opportunities because you're not going to try to double anybody. You're just going to step back and let the guys come. So that's, I think, the toughest part as an offensive lineman when you play a team like that, just sort of not knowing where the rush is coming from. A lot of teams that do the committee approach, they have to rush, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, and maybe that's a pressure a lot too. And so when they're pressuring a lot, it's difficult at times for you to know, again, who's blitzing, who's coming, where they're coming from, and there can be some confusion on exactly who to block, and that's where it can get really hurt offensive lines.
How many teams did you play on in your career where the quarterback was not a captain?
We have this discussion about Utah every year. It's very odd. He's not a captain again.
Well, it's wild because in the past for Utah, it was the backup quarterback was a captain twice or 3 times, and this time it's he's the newcomer. He's on the leadership council. He's going to be treated in some ways like captains do, but official captains, Devin Dampier he was not voted a captain.
Can I make my joke to you privately or publicly?
I have no idea.
I made a joke about Cam Rising. I think I texted you about it. I don't think.
You know what? Yeah, you did. Okay, I'm gonna put you on blast a little bit here. So, I put the question out on Twitter of the Utah football captains. Put the names. Whose names are you surprised not to see? Thinking Utah fans would be like, oh, where's Smith Snowden? I thought he would probably be a captain this year. Well, where's Devin Dampier? And Jeff screenshotted it and sent me. He's surprised to see that Cam Rising is not a captain this year. Okay, Jeff, not funny. Kind of funny though.
It's just that like Rising last year was very expensive for a lot of us who thought he, wasn't going to play. And then we bet against Utah, and it didn't work out for us. And it doesn't matter. It's our own personal beef with the situation last year. Look, I think with the portal, Sean, it's just how quickly can a guy become a captain who just is new to the program when you have. So I believe I saw the Fano brothers, right? They're captains, and what was it, like 2 offense, 2 defense?
Yeah, it's 2 offense, 2 defense. It's Lander Barton, who is healthy and should be amazing this year. It's Logan Fano and Spencer Fano, and then it's Jaron Kump, who's a 6th-year senior. He's the starting center. He's started at least 1 game at every position on the offensive line during his career. So it's not anyone that you'd be like, well, he doesn't deserve to be a captain. But it's just, you got to draw the line somewhere, and usually the quarterback is just kind of a de facto guy.
So this is why the portal, like you have 2 veteran offensive linemen. Like, how do you choose someone who's not one of those guys? Like that, I think is why you're in a situation that they're in now, where the quarterback's not the captain. Like if you're choosing 2, you're choosing the 6th-year offensive lineman, the other best offensive lineman. Like I get those decisions. You're choosing Barton, who is a legacy, right, at Utah. So I understand those decisions and why a quarterback doesn't end up being a captain.
Give me your Venmo protocol because John Mateer needs to be taught.
Oh, buddy, just dumb, right? Like very dumb.
Okay, we were making fun of it, but there is like a serious potential fallout here for the University of Oklahoma. Where I don't know because it was 2022 and they're going to do an investigation. I don't know how serious the investigation is going to be. Obviously, they're going to look into whatever this other guy was up to and if he's been involved in sports betting. And Mateer says it was an inside joke. Haha, of course. But does he miss any games at Oklahoma this year because of it?
Well, if they find out that he was gambling, yeah, of course he would. But I just his thing said his lawyer note he put out there, it was very lawyer. If you read it, it was like a lawyer wrote this, obviously, that like it was an inside joke with my friends. An inside joke.
I mean, honestly, everyone has probably done this on Venmo, where whether you leave it public or you make it private,
correct.
You say it's for something else, and with your buddies, you probably do put something inappropriate in there. With your wife, you put something inappropriate in there or whatever. But there's really no context in which the funny thing can be sports gambling on this specific game. Like what? If you say this.
Wait, your wife Venmos you money?
What's that? No. I Venmo my wife money.
I was like, my wife doesn't write anything funny on my Venmo.
And my wife wouldn't put anything inappropriate if she was Venmoing me money. But when she's like, I paid for this dentist appointment and you got to give me money for it, then, I'll put like I said it already. I don't want to beat the joke to death, but, I'll throw a little eggplant emoji in there and be like that,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair. I was about to say, I didn't think I've never had Meredith send me money before, so I was curious if you had your wife send you money before. It was a foreign thing to me. I don't know.
Totally different concept, but yeah, there's never there's never a way that it makes sense that this is we were joking that I was going to pay him for a sports bet in the USC versus UCLA game in 2022. Ha. And I did that. I just don't know how seriously, in a world where sports betting is now ubiquitous and it's super okay, except when it's on your team, if you're going to derail a national or a national legacy program over it.
Yeah. So obviously I gamble a lot. In fact, I just got a text to put in a wager for another preseason game this weekend. And you should bet in the preseason, by the way. You can make a lot of money. People think you can't. That's actually the preseason, by the way, is the number one area of football sharps are best at is preseason. It's unbelievable. They make a lot of money in preseason.
Wait, why is that? It seems like those would be the hardest games to bet because it's just a bunch of random dudes.
Because you get really good numbers. So, for example, I just got someone sent me a text to take this one team. The number will move 5, 6, 7 points now that a sharp group is taking it. That's why. You just get really good numbers.
All right.
Okay. So here's the thing. I think I understand and I support leagues with the idea that there's a zero tolerance policy when it comes to enforcing players gambling on your own sport, on the sport you're playing in, because you want the integrity to not be questioned, right? You don't want to think that a player, as a game you're watching, is on the take. I really get that. I support that concept, but I also if John Mateer, is wagering on UCLA USC and he's sitting at home on a Saturday night, is that really the worst thing? I know people will say, well, he has instant information. Not really. He's not going to have anything no one else has. Like the wise guys in Vegas don't make money by not knowing things. Like they know injuries before other guys are out. I was getting stuff about Cam Ward last year before you even knew stuff or anyone else knew stuff. It was like the Sharps know everything, right? They don't.
Yeah.
They know they have everything. So like, there's no edge John Mateer is getting. But so I kind of waffle with that idea. Like, is it really the worst thing if he's just with his buddies and puts $100, $20, $5 on a college football game as he's watching the Pac-12 After Dark game? It's probably not the worst thing. But then, of course, if you allow that to happen, it does sort of open up the door to like, well, what if I bet on my own game? I'm allowed to do in this. You know, so Sean, I'm kind of speaking on both sides here. Like, I sort of understand why it's shut down, but also I don't think it's the worst thing that John Mateer did that. If that makes sense.
No, I'm kind of with you because, like, do I think that John Mateer has any possible influence on an outcome of a USC-UCLA game from 2022? No, but I guess also we can't make that assumption because what if John Mateer was putting like real money on that game and, you know, one of his best high school buddies is a wide receiver in that game and John Mateer's just like, hey, I'll split the 10 grand with you if you drop 2 passes in the game or something. I don't know. Like, you can take it down whatever slippery slope you want to, which I guess is why you have to just say no, absolutely not for anyone. But the NCAA rules, for people who out there who don't know, mean like you can't even fill out a bracket if you're like, you know, you can't enter the office pool, so to speak, if you're a college athlete. And that's something that's like part of American society. So where do we draw the line? They're not really going to punish that. They never really have. They never really will. But this, maybe you do. I don't know.
I mean, look, I think John Mateer's going to have a good season, and so it'd be a bummer to not have him there. But look, you also just – the rules are very firm on this. Like, if you don't know this by now, that's a you problem, man. Like, there's no mistake of what, you know, like what's the rules are. If you don't know them, like, that's on you. And so I don't feel bad for John Mateer. He knew the rules and didn't follow them if it ends up being an actual case of him gambling on sports.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out for Oklahoma. No tears will be shed if the Sooners or any other blue blood gets punished a little bit for something like that.
Are you still? By the way, before we go, are you still a vegan? Like, what can I make on Thursday night? Are you
That's the biggest insult you've ever thrown my way. How dare you? How dare you? You told me you were getting that you had like a special meat truck that had given you great meats, and you were going to make those.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah. This guy just shows up at the house once a month, knocks on the door, and he has a truck, and inside is like a freezer of meat. And I have these like cowboy prime ribs, cowboy ribeyes I'll make us.
I'm so excited for that. Are you going to make?
I hope the kids are on their best behavior. By that I mean their worst.
By best, you mean their worst? Yeah. Are you?
Yes.
What are we doing? Are we doing like a Bernaise sauce? Are you just a salt and pepper guy?
No, I'll marinate them Worcestershire and like steak seasoning.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming from this back to school thing too, so like we'll make it work. Don't worry.
The Yelp review is going to be violent and mean, no matter what you do, even if it's the best steak I've ever had in my life.
I deserve it.
All right. See you soon, buddy.
Right,
Thanks for joining me.
Thursday.
All right.
Yep. Bye.
Jeff Schwartz, longtime NFL veteran, former Oregon Duck, gambling insider, college football and NFL, and a guy who apparently is degenerate watching every preseason game.
Also, for me, very relatable in that I would have no idea what to wear to a MMA fight night either.
Is this like, I mean, I've never even had to think about this.
Is it like any other sporting event? Like whatever you're in, it's fine? Because I wouldn't think twice about, like, obviously, if I'm going to a Jazz game as a fan, not covering it, I might put on a Jazz jersey. But, like, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to wear a jersey. I'll just wear whatever I'm wearing today.
Yeah. So I think what you wear might have something to do with where your seats are.
Okay, that makes sense.
For a lot of people. Not for everyone, obviously. Like, you're totally fine to wear whatever you want to any sporting event, in my opinion. At fight nights, at big fight nights especially, what you'll often see is the people who like might appear on camera. They might be caught, during the walkouts, or you could see them because of the angles through the cage or whatever. Like those people that are sitting close to the actual competition probably maybe dress up a little bit more because they might appear on camera.
They want to look a little fancy. They want to look nice.
The boxing thing, because it is prize fighting, right? And so there's a combat sports crossover here where you go back to the golden age of boxing, and people got dressed to the nines to go to those events. Like, if you're talking like a Holyfield Tyson fight kind of stuff, people are wearing tuxedos, women in gowns, that kind of a thing. So you'll have a little bit of that at a big PFL fight night or UFC fight night or whatever. You'll have a little bit of that. It's actually kind of wild to see because sometimes you'll see a couple that's there together, and the fairer sex will often be done up like they're going out to a fancy dinner, and maybe they already did go out to the fancy dinner, or they're going out to a club after and just looking their absolute best. And then the knucklehead is wearing like a tap-out T-shirt and a backwards hat.
Yeah.
You get that mix. But I guess the same is true. Like, I went to a lot of Utah Hockey Club, now Mammoth games this last year, and you see a little bit of that there too.
Yeah, that's
people
true.
Wearing sweaters, and then some people are just like, oh, wow. Did you just have like an anniversary dinner or something? You look nice. So
you're like, well, I'm right on the glass. You
know what?
That's like actually 30 rows up.
We're going to have to write that down in the notes. We won't do it today because the show's almost over, but we need to do at a sporting event. Are you a dress for comfort, dress for team support, like you got to wear team gear, or are you like a dress to impress type person? Because there definitely are those people where you're out in public and you want to look good.
Yeah, anytime you're out, whether it's a sporting event, concert, you're going to the movies, you want to look good.
You look great.
You go to dinner. Other people are like, well, no, it depends on the situation. I'm typically that's a good one. I'm typically a dress for team support kind of thing, but I really like jerseys. So
I support all choices in that regard. And one place maybe to look for guidance, you can find out at the Delta Center. You can find out at Bees Ballpark. You can find out where the families sit, where like the significant others of the players and everyone sits. See what they're wearing, and it's always a mix. Sometimes it's like the wags are just like, you're like, whoa, that's a professional athlete's girlfriend. That's a professional athlete's wife right there. She's dressed up. She looks great. And sometimes it's like, that's a professional athlete's girlfriend or wife or significant other or husband or whoever. They're wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
Like, it's all acceptable. You can wear what you want.
May or may not have the team's logo on the hoodie.
Yeah.
It's just
may or may not be washed. Doesn't matter. Sporting events, it's great. Sports are this ultimate equalizer where you get the kings and the paupers all in one building together, and you sometimes can't tell the difference. And that's a good thing. Big thanks to Jeff Schwartz for joining us. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM, proud part of Utah's ESPN radio network. James Peterson, Shohei Ohtani, good guy, bad guy, neutral guy. What do you think of Shohei? We know he's a baseball god. I mean, he is 3-time MVP. He's a guy who stands alone in the history books already, and plenty of baseball left to be played in his career. 50-50 club by himself. Won a World Series. Two-way player. I mean, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But Shohei Ohtani has had the gambling. We were just talking about the John Mateer stuff with Jeff Schwartz. We referenced it earlier on the show as well. I mean, Shohei Ohtani had a fall guy for his gambling thing, but he was somehow involved in gambling, it seems. Instead, there was an agreement that, hey, this is going to be, you're going to have stolen, Mr. Interpreter, best friend. You're going to have stolen all this money from me without me noticing if we ever get into trouble here. And now he's involved in another scandal. So is Shohei a bad guy, or is he a good guy, or is he just like a guy?
I don't think. See, I don't think that he is the sports gambling guy. I'm not. I actually believe what came out of that. That
you
it
believe
was not,
that his
that it was
interpreter stole tens of millions of dollars from him and gambled that money without him knowing at all.
I believe what came. I don't know if he didn't know at all, but I don't think it was him saying. I don't think it was, hey, make these bets for me. Sports gambling. I think it might have. Maybe he knew he was loaning him money, and maybe he knew he was loaning him money, and maybe in the back of his mind he knew, hey, he's going to use. I know my interpreter likes to gamble. He's going to use it. But anyway, for that reason, I don't think he's a bad guy for that reason. I'm kind of neutral on him. Like, I don't – there's so many things that it's hard to know the truth of. It's like maybe he's a guy you can't totally trust, but maybe he's a victim in some ways. Maybe the thing, even if he is someone that you're like, I don't know if I can totally trust you, the things that you're accused of, not totally crazy, especially this gambling thing. Like, I don't know. I'm kind of neutral on him.
So he's involved in another scandal. I don't know if you've seen this, but he's being sued by a real estate developer and an agent, a broker in Hawaii. There's this huge real estate deal going up right now in, people here like to travel to Hawaii all the time. So it's on the kind of northwestish side of the Big Island, near Waikoloa Village. People probably have stayed at condos there. And Shohei Ohtani and his agent, not his interpreter.
Sabotage $240 million housing development?
Allegedly.
Yeah.
So he's being sued because the assertion from the plaintiffs in the case are that Shohei was brought in to be, the celebrity face, to be the endorser, to be the spokesperson. Hey, this is a beautiful spot. Come buy a condo here. He's very popular in the United States, especially on the West Coast. He's obviously exceedingly popular in Japan. What is exactly in the middle of those two places? Hawaii. I mean, anyone who's been to Hawaii, there's a massive...
both geographically and culturally, yeah.
Hawaii is full of Japanese people, Japanese tourists, Japanese immigrants. Like, it makes perfect sense that Shohei would be the guy you would choose to be your housing development endorser. I have a condo at Hapuna Village, and you should get one too, or whatever, right? And so his agent and Shohei are involved in this deal, and apparently, again, the accusation is, and what's being sued, is that he ended up getting this person fired because they just kept saying, no, I want more, no, you got to do this for me, and he abused his power as the celebrity to the point where eventually the other business partners, the other investors in this, and we're like to the go-between, to the two individuals who actually had the relationship with Ohtani and with his agent were like, you got to stop giving them stuff. And these two people were just like, we can't. He's Shohei Ohtani. We got to give him what he wants. So the other investors were just like, well, clearly you're trying to serve their needs more than our needs. So you're fired. You're out. We're leveraging you out of this deal. You're done. And now the people who got fired because they gave too much, they conceded too many times to Shohei and to his agent, they're now suing Shohei Ohtani and the agent for getting them fired, saying that you sabotaged us. And by the way, Shohei and his agent not cut out of the deal. So the assertion is that what you did is you got me fired and this other person fired so that your cut is now bigger because the pie is sliced fewer times.
So wait a second, though. Is there really much of a case for Shohei and his people being liable for these people losing their job, losing out on a huge return on investment here, when it wasn't them that said you need to fire these guys because of whatever? It was the other investors saying your priorities are out of whack, so you got to go. Like, I'm not sure how there's any justifiable case against Shohei Ohtani. Now, obviously they have a role in it, but it's not like a direct role in them losing their job. The direct people that got them fired, got them kicked off the project, were their peers saying, "Hey, your priorities are out of whack." If I'm understanding it correctly, I'm not sure that there's much of a case.
They're being sued for tortious interference and unjust enrichment. The houses.
Abuse of power is one of the quotes in the article here that I pulled up too. This is a case about abuse of power.
Defendants use threats as baseless legal claims to force a business partner to betray its contractual obligations and strip plaintiffs of the very project they conceived and built. So again, the legal assertion here is that,
I guess if they can prove that they knew that by asking for all these extra things, these special privileges and enrichments and whatever, that would get them kicked off the project. I guess that's what they're trying to prove. They're going to have to prove. I don't see how that's provable, I guess, unless there's like some paper trail that says, "Hey, we don't like these guys. Let's get unnecessary attention, or let's get some unwanted attention on them from the other investors by asking way too much on a writer type thing."
Okay, this might show, despite my holding in Masters of Business Administration, I might just not be a good businessman, because tell me why this makes sense, James. Tell me why this makes sense. This Mauna Kea Village is it's like luxury residences type, sort of resort. The houses average $17.3 million each. Okay, so you're appealing to a very, very, very high-end clientele, right? There are 14 residences within the project. If you have enough money to buy a $17.3 million house, do you give a bleep whether or not Shohei Ohtani is your neighbor? Do you care whether the guy from the Dodgers is actually endorsing this project? Do the hyper-rich, who, let's be honest, this is probably not their only piece of property. They're buying a vacation home for dang near $20 million. Do they care that Shohei Ohtani's involved as an endorser?
They're like Shohei Ohtani should want to be my neighbor. I suppose what they're thinking will, the people they're trying to attract are the ultra rich Japanese.
Correct. Yes, the primary
I suppose.
target audience is the Japanese luxury home buyer, vacation home buyer.
Okay, so I think that there's a pretty good bet that even the most prestigious celebrity Japanese people with more money than you know who that would be a appeal to them. That would be a draw to them that, hey, Shohei can be my neighbor. I'm not sure there's many of that same type of demographic of Americans that would care. I think you're right on that in that assertion. The Japanese descent or currently Japanese citizens, Japanese natives, they probably that might be an appeal to them.
So this to me, what this feels like to me, right, is this is the stuff that you hear these apocryphal stories about how Michael Jordan is kind of a jerk and was a really shrewd and mean business partner and was a little bit abusive with his celebrity. But he existed, his prime was in a time where it wasn't reported quite as readily, where the internet age would cause something like this to be so, we could see it. Anyone in the world could see it, right? It feels like that to me. Or it feels like people that got fired for doing dumb stuff and are trying to salvage some type of financial gain out of a project they're now no longer part of. They're accusing Ohtani's agent of being the reason that they were fired. Of him being I just don't think they're not giving me enough anymore. Get rid of those people. And then the group being all right, fine, we'll fire them because they've given you too much already. Everyone's happy they're fired. I don't know. And
we can't risk making you and Shohei upset, so we're going to get rid of the people that you want us to get rid of. I'm skeptical that that's probably what happened. It seems to me like they made bad decisions and they got fired for it because it looked bad. The decisions that they made to placate Shohei and his people a little bit too much looked bad to the other investors, and they made a business decision to say, hey, you're off the project. I'm not sure Shohei and his people had anything to do with that. I'm skeptical that that's the case. But, more information may come out, and like I said, if there's some kind of paper trail, some kind of text or email exchange that says, hey, got to get these guys gone, then obviously I'd be less skeptical. But right now, it smells like sour grapes. We're mad that we got fired for something that seems pretty harmless, but it's hey, you can get kicked off projects like this for things that are seemingly harmless because the other people who are putting up money just don't like it. That's legal. That's okay in most cases, as I understand it. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
All right, Shohei, you might be a bad guy. You might be a good guy. You're a great baseball player, so
maybe
no one's probably going to care at the end of the day.
Yeah, maybe it's just the people around him aren't good. Maybe he just has people that represent him that just aren't good. He needs to do a better job of choosing that. That's also a thing.
That is a thing, but isn't that?
He's partially responsible for that.
Doesn't that because we can't sports wash Shohei in that case. If you surround yourself with a bunch of dirtbags and I surround myself with a bunch of dirtbags, people are going to be like, James is a dirtbag.
Yeah, you're partially responsible for the people you surround yourself with. That's true.
What's that dumb thing? You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If it's your agent and your interpreter are both, there's a common denominator here, and the common denominator right now is Shohei Ohtani. So we'll see. Oh, what up, OC? Your resident Angels fan checking in. Another Ohtani scandal and the power of friendship. Angels beating the Dodgers last night to move to 4-0 against them this year. Puts a smile on this frustrated fan's face. All right. So you're happy now that you lost Ohtani because he's involved in another scandal, Angels fans? Bold strategy, Cotton.
When they're winning the season series against the Dodgers. Hey, you know what? Shout out to you still, Texter. We are on your side because that's an awful situation that you find that your favorite team finds themselves in. Hopefully they turn it around soon.
All right. You know what? Spence Checketts is on remote today. Is he at the campus store? Is he at the Utah Red Zone?
Now that is tomorrow.
Okay.
He is at Dish Pros.
Okay. He's at Dish Pros today.
So go check out what they got going on with Dish, and I believe they do a little direct TV there at Dish Pros.
Well,
check that out.
Run down, grab some swag, tell Spence hi, find out what kind of deals they can hook you up with, and then tomorrow he'll be at the Red Zone store. We're going to wrap it up here. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show on Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.